What is missing from most yoga teacher trainings? My guest today is Cheryl Lancellas from Devahiti Yoga. Join us on the inside where we explore what those three key essential aspects are. And let's see if you are able to incorporate them in your yoga practice or your yoga teacher trainings. See you on the inside.
Welcome everyone, it is me, Nina from Yoga Awakening Africa, and today I'm going to be chatting with Cheryl. Cheryl is from Devahiti, meaning divine order, which came from or comes from a blend of lifelong traditional yoga studies, dance teaching, personal training, and body alignment techniques. And Devahiti draws from yoga, fascia release therapy, Ayurveda, and cognitive psychology to promote alignment and harmony in both body and mind, whether you're on the mat or in daily life. And Cheryl likes to think of Devahiti Yoga as an all-encompassing yogic system founded on the traditional disciplines, while simultaneously embracing the exciting and ever-expanding new developments in yoga, as well as its related traditional healing arts. Welcome, Cheryl. I look forward to delving into our topic with you today.
Hi, Nina. It's great to be here with you. Lovely to see you again, as well as to chat.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Thank you for having me here this morning.
Yeah, so excited. So Cheryl, let's maybe just start off with a few minutes of your yoga journey, how long you've been in it, where's your background, and then we'll get into kind of like the three essential aspects that a lot of yoga teacher trainings are missing, yoga teachers are missing, and your thoughts, or we can have a little discussion on those things. But first, maybe, are you happy to just share a little bit of your background?
All right. So it goes back quite a good many decades now, just without giving the exact age away. But yoga's been a part of my life since my early 20s. I came in to yoga in the back door because when I was a teenager, I came upon the word ahimsa, and having discovered vegetarianism, became a vegetarian while I was still at high school. This word of ahimsa and what it meant, how it was interpreted, really, really resonated with me.
And just for those who are listening who don't really know what ahimsa means, because we use it a lot in our yoga terminology, non-violence, correct?
Yes.
In that sense, okay.
So in the sense of non-violence and non-violence to others. So again, I suppose that it's a parallel with most other practices where it is, do unto others the way you would like to have done to yourself. But it goes a little deeper, and it really, really, really resonated with me from the other aspects of my philosophy, of how I was growing and developing. And then I started getting into, from there, I came upon meditation and started doing that. And then it was the most natural thing, being a dance teacher already, to incorporate the actual asana practice. And, from dancing, I had been a dance teacher for a while already. And when you're teaching classes over and over, as well as I was doing, I had a fitness center, so you've got these high impact, in those days, really high impact aerobic classes, and a lot of the dance teaching was Jane Fonda stuff. A lot of the dance classes teaching, especially to the younger children, you would be asymmetrically doing something over and over to show them this dance move, and I was feeling it in my body. And then I used yoga to unwind. I used the yoga to bring myself back to that homeostasis again. So it's been there for a long time, and it's been a tool in my life. And when about 3 decades ago, I started my first teacher training, and then I also started the yoga safaris, which was kind of one of the very first that took place, in Southern Africa. So that got me rolling. That's kind of my background, where it became more prominent that I was doing yoga more and less of the personal training and the dancing, until eventually it just kind of organically became just the yoga. Obviously, I bring a lot of the other aspects into my classes and into my trainings. But yeah, so it's been, I've been running the teacher training for just over 3 decades, and I've really enjoyed the growth that's been happening, you know, in Southern Africa and the awareness around the world. And but I think one of the things is, well, a few of the things that we're going to chat about this morning and are related to the changes that have happened, maybe a little bit to the commercialized aspects of these teacher trainings.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just always amazed at how yoga has grown and expanded. Like, I mean, you've been saying, you know, you've been teaching for 3 decades now, like, you know, or training for over 30 years. I've only been in the teaching, you know, for 20 plus years now. Like, you know, I've gotten there. And just in those years, it's amazing to see how things have shifted and changed, as you see it already. And what is so lovely is that, you know, we can learn, because, you know, how you taught your first class way back when and how I did, it's completely different to how we're teaching now. So we're always learning and growing. So this conversation is not meant to be like a judgment on anyone or any training out there or anything like that. It's just, I think, bringing light to certain aspects or areas that we who've been there for a while realized are maybe lacking at the moment. So let's start with the first one. What do you find is the first key essential thing that is missing from a lot of teacher trainings, or overlooked, or missed?
Well, I think with a lot of it, it boils down to studios as well. And I mean, there's so many reasons for you know, these large classes. I totally understand. I've had to close a couple of my businesses in the past because of rental costs. So I understand that if you're paying a very high rental, that you need to put in the numbers to justify that. I understand that. However, personally, what I have found for me, my comfort zone is 10 students. You give or take 2 or 3, you know, either side of that. But my comfort zone is that happy number of 10, whether it is just one of my open, you know, public classes, or if it's teacher training. And I feel from my point of view that I am able to then do justice to the class. I can still leave my mat, walk around, take a look, and see everybody in that time that they're holding a pose, that I can see that they are, you know, do the little fine tunings, talk them into, you know, just the nuances of that, without being so many in the class that they're actually now fatigued before I've checked everybody out. So, you know, for me, when I was training with the sports science, it was all about safe and being safe and effective, you know, with exercise. So even though this is what we always refer to as a work in, we still need to be cautious and we need to be careful. So that is where I feel is the happy place, with having a smaller group and being able to give your undivided attention and to individuals, as opposed to having a very large group. And that then boils down, or we take that into the teacher training. So, you know, if you've got 20 odd people in a teacher training and you've only got your 200 hours, how are you able to check what each individual is doing and listen to how they're teaching and letting them find their way in the language of movement? Because that's a huge thing. You know, there's just a simple thing like, let's say your arms are up overhead and then the teacher says, float your arms down behind you. That makes my hair stand on end, because we're not floating our arms back down. You float your arms up. And so this language of movement needs to be understood, and that takes time. So everything takes time for each individual to show you that they're absorbing what the teachings are. Otherwise, they fall behind. And these are the sort of basic and the foundations of it. So that, I think, is a big thing, is to find your happy place where you as the main teacher, running the teacher trainings, can give that attention to detail to the size of the group.
And I think that is, I love that first key aspect with regards to kind of like the size. It really needs to make sense. And I hate to admit, but the yoga teacher training that I went on when I was at Ananda Kutia, our group was 20. It was a big group, and that's exactly what you're talking about. There was an individual attention. Like when we had issues, when I had issues with anatomy, I was way too shy to put up my hand and say, listen, I don't understand how the digestive system works. So I don't understand, the endocrine system, like, what it means, or how are they related to the chakras. I was way too shy to do that. And I didn't understand things fully. It was only with years to come and more training and going back to my regular yoga teacher, because I was going to her twice a week. And I did that throughout the training and after the training, still, like, I was still going to classes. And I think that's what kind of like helped me fill in those gaps. And I think if you are going to a teacher training, like you're saying, I also like that number of 10. I think that is a safe number. I think a teacher can observe, give everyone a chance to be heard without having like one or two people there who overrun or kind of like take the stage. It just
Which you always do, because you've got so many different individuals, and those ones that are shy and quiet are the ones that get overlooked, and then they're not developing the methods that maybe are necessary.
Exactly. So I do love that. I love that key aspect, group size. I think that's one thing that I think a lot of those who are planning on running a teacher training, who do run a teacher training, who run yoga classes or plan on running yoga classes, like, really just consider, like, how much value can you give to how many students. And I think, like you're saying, like, it needs to speak true to each one. Maybe another person's is just 5. Maybe that's where they're at capacity. Maybe a person is 12. But like you're saying, like, that sweet spot 10, I agree with you. I think that is a very sweet spot, which I think is a good group size, kind of like between 8 and 12. I think that is really cool. All right.
And I think, Nina, I think there, what we can go back to, just to mention there is, from the affordability is to work from home. If you're in a position where you can have a home studio, where you're not paying some ridiculous rental, we can keep these costs to down, and we can keep the group smaller. We can give better quality.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many ways to do that, and if it's not you who has the space, maybe there's a student who's wanting to do it and they've got a home that's got space, and it's just communicating. And it's more about this community, building a community again. I find, like, also if you've got like smaller numbers, you can really build a healthy community around that is very supportive, and it ends up being a long-term friendship and network that you then build.
So one of my past teachers came up with a really lovely idea. She opened a little studio, and then teachers just came in and they would rent space. They would then say, right, we want to do the 8 o'clock class, and then they would pay to be there and then get the income for that. And so it's made a beautiful platform for a lot of people to move through, and also to just find their feet with their teaching, see where they want to go with it. So that's a lovely idea here in our Belita area.
Yeah, and because I've seen it so many times, you become a yoga teacher and you've got this vision of having this beautiful studio overlooking a garden with a little, tea house next to it, and then what ends up happening is you don't get to teach yoga anymore. You actually have to start running a business, because now you're selling clothing items, and you're running, your coffee shop with it, and yoga products. And you actually end up disliking what you're doing because you're not actually teaching. And so if you can just find that small little space where you can put 5 mats out and teach the way you want to teach, instead of having to run this business that you didn't actually want to run, unless you obviously want to run a business, that's a whole different story. But if you're wanting to teach, it's very different. And I love that, where again, someone's taken on the business operations, but you just come in, you rent the spot, come in, teach, do what you're good at, and then you can leave again.
Yeah, it definitely is working, for sure.
Cool. All right. I love that. Group size, vital, key. I completely agree with you. What is the second one that you've picked up over the years that you find is lacking in a lot of trainings?
One of the things that I noticed every time I was going to India and doing my different courses and workshops there, the way that they prepare you for your practice is with your Surya Namaskar. And that is quite you get onto your mat and you start. Now it's early in the morning, you've been sitting in your meditation and doing your chants and your mantras, and then you stand and you go straight into Surya Namaskar, your sun salutes, which is a dynamic practice. And I've played with that over the years and with my students and with my clients, and we've tried Surya doing that at the beginning of the class, we've tried it in the middle of the class, and we've tried it at the end of the class. And the most value we get out of it is after we've done preparation, we've worked through our class, and we bring it in towards the, when you're wanting to really get that heat going. And so it brings awareness to the warm-up. Like if you're going to a dance class, you were going to say an exercise training class, or now the kettlebells, using these pieces of equipment. You don't just get out of your car and go and start doing your training. You prepare the body for that. And so now it's really well known that everything is in the fascia. So you've got all the systems in the fascia. So if you're going to do preparation, if you're going to do these slow, and I'm not talking ballistic movements, I'm talking dynamically, you're moving dynamically, but you're taking the shoulder in its gentle range of movement, you're taking its hip, you're doing some awareness techniques into breath work and contractions into the abdominals, to just slowly prepare the body for the effort that you're going to be doing later. So I encourage a 10 to a 15-minute dynamic warm-up. And for example, my therapy classes would be, the whole class would literally be like that. You would keep it gentle and fluid and dynamic. The reason being is that if you're preparing the fascia, which we know the nervous system is in there, the proprioception and awareness develops, because now you've hydrated, you've activated your fascial system, the network, and then you can actually start to do the rest of your practice with greater ease and greater awareness. It also reduces the chance of injuries. If you're thinking of going straight into your practice and doing a chaturanga, your chance of a rotator cuff damage or something is going to go up, and your training then, or your practice, would go down, because now you've got these injuries. So obviously, in a group practice, we are working with the various age groups and people with different abilities, different fitness levels, different awareness and proprioception and things. All of that needs to come in. So by bringing that gentle dynamic warm-up into the beginning of the class, it makes the rest of the class with deeper, almost going into interoception, building up that awareness, and then your practice will be safer and more effective.
Yeah, I could not agree more with you than what you've just said. I think I see that so often, of just, or being part of it as well, going to classes, and you go straight into a sun salutation. And I love what you say. It's like, you tested it out. You tested it out with your students. So, us as teachers Cool, let's do it. Let's get on my mat. How does it feel when we do it first thing before any warm-up? How does it feel if it's in the middle of our class? How do we feel if it's at the end of our class? How does it feel when we do those three different places, Nina, you know, in the morning versus like our evening classes? Because things are also going to shift a little bit different at different times. And I think
different
that's beauty,
seasons as well.
different seasons, 100%. In the winter, in the freezing cold, like you do need to get the body warmed up before you can go into something strong, like like a strong forward bend, your chaturanga, your downward dog, whatever it may be. Like your hamstrings are going to be tight. You need that. You do need the dynamic, but slowly, easily move into that differently. So I love what you say about take yourself onto the mat, test it out and see what feels, and then adapt. Just because you learned something in a specific way in your teacher training doesn't mean that that's the way it has to be for the rest of your life. If you're realizing that that's not feeling good for you or your students, then, you know, you can shift and change the way you operate. And so, again, I think that is a key concept that a lot of people should consider is like, make sure you go into classes. If you're going to do a teacher training or you're thinking of doing a teacher training, go to classes with a whole lot of different teachers and see how you feel at the beginning and the end of a class and notice, like, is there warm-ups happening?
And you know, if so there was a period of time that I put a couple of little ideas of warm-ups on my YouTube, my little Devahiti YouTube channel, and I've got a bit slack with it, and I should do more, and I will do more so people can get ideas of what it is. But just, I mean, if you think in terms of cat and cow, so you're doing your cow and your cat, or you lying on your back with your knees bent and you're doing sacral rock breathing, as in you're relaxing on the mat, but you breathe into your belly, and as you breathe out, you press the spine down onto the ground, the tailbone naturally curls, and so you're getting a gentle rocking action in the sacrum. It's preparing the spine. You do your floating bridge, float up on the inhale, down on the exhale, change it, you do some arms open wide, you know, just knees to chest, leg up to sky. There's so many things that you can do that are gentle and supported by the mat, or you can do them standing, or you can do them in so you can be in various different planes. This morning we started using the wall in my therapy class to do the warm-up at the wall, you know, just doing some gentle heel raises and stepping and moving. And so there's a lot of different ways of doing that. But you can also use intelligent arranging of your asanas, you know, not going into downward dog at the beginning of the class and stepping into a lunge, you know, it's because you need to prepare both awareness and obviously allowing the structures to warm up and to be ready to open up, to create that spaciousness.
I'm having a little giggle to myself because recently in the last week, I was like, I've started posting a lot of my yoga classes that I taught in lockdown on the channel. And I just thought, let me make it available to people. And I usually always cringe when I think of like doing or participating in my own classes. And I've been watching them and doing them in the mornings. And each time I'm like, wow, Nina, that was a really cool class. Like, each posture kind of like warmed up or flowed to the next towards like the main pose that's towards the end. And I was like, great. And yes, the quality isn't great and the sound isn't great because no one had decent equipment when we were in lockdown. Like this was all new. But what I realized is like the essence of the teachings are there and great. And I was like, okay, these need to go out. And like you're saying, you know, you've also got your YouTube channel, and I'll link in here to that as well, just for people to get ideas as to like, what does warm up look like? What does it entail, and how do you do it? Because I think it can be really helpful for a lot of people.
And also, it doesn't have to be specific for what your peak pose is. It's you know, when what I'm saying in my teacher training, we obviously discuss which way, how does the spine move? The spine can flex, it extends, it rotates. There's a lateral extension, and then there's also axial extension, which is what we need to do now because our postures are so poor, to just bring everything sort of back into its neutral line, so to speak. So you want to focus on the spine. If you're focusing on the way the spine moves, or in your dynamic warm-up, you're preparing the entire body, for the rest of the practice. Yeah. So it's not really as technical as or challenging as one would think.
No, exactly. You can keep it really simple, but like you're saying, bringing awareness to that. All right. I mean, we can probably chat for ages, and I know we probably shouldn't. So what is the third and the final essential key aspect that you find is missing from a lot of trainings?
Well, I think that, yes, in the trainings, you have to put a lesson plan together, obviously. Without knowing how to plan a class, nothing would really, come to fruition. But one of the things is this vinyasa krama, bringing in the idea that you have a starting point, you have a peak, and then from there you're going back down to sort of close the body down.
I'm going to interrupt just very quickly, because I know that a lot of people, whenever I've said vinyasa krama, they don't understand that concept of that this is yoga sequencing, because they think it's vinyasa yoga. And those are
like your Surya Namaskar.
Those are two very separate things. Like vinyasa yoga is a style of yoga. Your vinyasa krama is the sequencing. So sorry, please carry on, Cheryl, because I want to make that a big thing, because there are a lot of people out there who don't know what vinyasa krama is.
Okay, so to sort any misunderstanding, it is that you've got literally your beginning of your class, then you would build up both the warmth and the heat in the body and the power into your practice, and then it starts to go down. So you have a peak pose. So let's say, for example, triangle, Trikonasana is your peak pose. So I then would teach my students to analyze what is the body doing in that pose. Do your shoulders need to be open? Is your spine flexed? Is it extended? Is it rotated? And those are the things, what's happening with the hips, what's happening with the legs, do you need to have balance? Those are the things that need to then be brought in prior to that, so that just off the top of my head, something comes to mind. One of my colleagues, when we were working on something, she said, let's have a class growing a lotus. And so we designed this class around growing a lotus. So obviously you've got to work on getting mobility into those hips and getting the knees ready, getting the spine ready. So then when it comes time to move into your peak pose, the body is so happy to go there and so ready to get into that people get there and it's like, holy mackerel, I didn't think I could do this. So you've got into that with ease. That is vinyasa krama. That is as intelligent lesson planning. In our 200-hour teacher training, there is not enough time to have wonderful philosophical discussions around the table, to discuss the language of movement, to get through all the asanas, and the talking in and the out of, and the alignment. You just don't have enough time to do too much of these lesson plans. So I would encourage the teacher in the teacher trainings for the trainers to say afterwards, to have a continued mentorship, allowing your now graduates to, it really doesn't take that much time. So, if let's say you, my new graduate, Nina, you are going to put down your brand new class for me, you draw your lovely little stick figures and you take a photo of it and you send it to me. I go through it and it's like, okay, number 3 and 4 could be maybe swapped around. And maybe that second line should be down onto the third line and the fifth line up into the, it's just the little fine tunings so that the class goes back into intelligent vinyasa krama. And that takes time. It's the same as driving, when you're learning to drive. Again, I bring that in, after a while, it just becomes a natural process. So just by offering that support as the main or the head teacher, to just say, I'm there for you. We will hold space for you. Any questions that you have. If you've got you're teaching, you're now the graduate teacher and you're teaching, and there's one of your clients has something that you don't actually know the answer, or you don't know, it's something new to you. That's what we are here for, to say, okay, let me know. And sometimes we won't even know that, because everybody, we don't know everything. So then we can research it, we can put our heads together, and then we can find a solution. And that's how we all grow. I mean, in the beginning, when you started teaching, I'm sure you didn't know anything about, I'm thinking multiple sclerosis, or someone who's battling with we don't know all these different challenges that people have. Yes. So I think that's important to have ongoing mentorship free as part of your offerings to your new students.
Yeah, I think that is a key element as well. It's like this, like you're saying, the mentorship, it's like the after sales service, so to speak. Yes. It's like, yes, you buy a car and you get, your next 3 years, servicing, package part of it or whatnot. And I think that really is vital. And I'm so glad that when I did my teacher training, my teacher was still around, and I could go to her with my lesson plan and say, like, I don't know, is this work? And she would help me, and she would sit with me, just like, you were saying. And I think that is key with regards to a teacher training, is like, make sure you're there for your students even after they've left. And I know a lot of teachers or trainings may say that, but I don't think they actually follow through with it. And I don't think a lot of students actually take, the training or the teachers up on that either.
On that, yeah.
And because we want to, we think we're an authority, so we should know everything. But I love what you're saying. It's like, you can't know everything, and you don't need to know everything. But we can come together, and we can put our heads together, and two heads are so much better than one.
Yeah.
And we'll work it out.
I also have an open door policy for my teachers who have passed through my studio, in that they can come and drop in anytime free of charge, because we know what it's like. Once you become a teacher, you so often lose your mojo because you're so busy teaching that you don't actually get to go. And often it's expensive to go and do a class here and to do a class there. So open door policy, and I think that could also be a suggestion to other studios. So, but then it should be reciprocated. So if you're now my new graduate and you open a studio, you come to me whenever, and I can drop in and come to you as well, so it builds community again, and prevents people from thinking, there's just the separation and thinking only about their own studio.
Mm-hmm. Cheryl, I've absolutely loved chatting with you about this. I think the three kind of like essential, the missing parts that are in a lot of yoga teacher trainings, this idea of like the group size, that they're just, often they are just too big. I think group size is key. I think the lesson planning is vital, making sure that you've got that correct sequencing in place, your warm-ups, warming up the body. And then, like you're saying, having that mentorship, that support from your teacher community is really, really important. Is there anything else you would like to leave the listeners with? Any other thoughts or something that popped into your head while we were chatting that you're like, you know what, this is also a key aspect, or this is also something that is essential if you're a new or even a seasoned teacher?
Well, I think one of the things that keeps coming to mind, we even spoke about it a little earlier, is do not forget that no matter any of the number of courses and things ongoing, is very important, yes, to do ongoing, workshops and things to stimulate your mind. But at the end of the day, true growth for us is the proof of the pudding is doing it. Do not neglect your practice yourself as a teacher. Disembodiment leads to disease. It's just as simple as that. So we want to stay and need to stay healthy. So therefore we need to work on and maintain our own embodiment, which this is what we are passing along. So we need to keep our own practice ourselves.
Yeah, so true, so true. Cheryl, thank you so much for spending time with me.
Thank you, Nina. Lovely to see you. And then thanks again for your time.
Fantastic.